welcome to Scry-Fi episode 2. We're talking about Mandalorian season 3, episode 2, right?
Yes.
So this one just destroyed the whole series, right? It was horrible. I'm just kidding.
No, I quite enjoyed it.
So I liked it even better than the first one. I mean,
it kind of surprised me the direction they took, given the setup from the previous episode. There was all that stuff about the mission to get IG 55 or whatever, and then just take this other droid. So, but it was R5, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, he obviously only trusted IG 11, right? And then because he hates droids and stuff, but I guess at some point you can only be told by so many people that you can't rebuild them, and then
Well, he went there looking for those parts, and she said, "Oh, I don't have them, but I get this other droid." So it was, it's not like it's a series of things that couldn't happen. It makes perfect sense, but it's just narratively, as a writer writing these episodes, it's kind of weird to go and then just like that.
That's true.
It's not money. It's not even funny. It's just kind of interesting.
It's weird. So we're talking about Peli, Motto, and Mandalorian talking. So she has a way of convincing him.
The very beginning. Let's take it in order. I don't remember.
Yeah. So the very beginning, they start at Tatooine. So he in fact, she's talking to the Rodian about his missing.
Oh, that. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So actually,
cool.
Yeah, so she's talking to the Rodian and stuff, and you can already kind of see where it's going, but the minute the Jawas comes in, you realize.
But it makes her a lot more shady than I thought she was. I mean, I thought she'd kind of hedge numbers and estimates and stuff, but I didn't picture her as outright going out and stealing stuff, and it's way darker than.
Well, the speeder that she stole from, though, is like a sports speeder, and that Rodian looked all rich and stuff. My guess is she's not stealing from poor people.
I
think she's going after some rich people.
That dude was kind of portrayed to be a jerk too. He was all saying stuff and all that.
Right.
So,
and it reminded me of whenever
the jerky guy who has the sports car. Maybe that.
He reminded me, that little scene reminded me of whenever Tika and Obi-Wan was trying to sell back to Obi-Wan the part that she took out of his little air system or something. Right. It's kind of that's just how business is on Tatooine.
I wanted to see more Tika, toward the end when we came back to it.
Yeah. I love the Jawas. I rewatched just recently the 2 best episodes of Boba Fett, where it's the Mandalorian stories, and I've forgotten, but that Peli said that she had dated a Jawa for a little while.
Yeah,
and so when she started talking,
somebody said they thought it was disturbing that the number of main characters who have had sex with a Jawa is not 0, something like that,
Yeah, she was
also, it was a cool little bit of. I was like, "What happened to her tooth?" And then somebody reminded me that she lost it in that Boba Fett episode.
Oh, did she? Okay, I was trying to remember what happened because I did see the missing tooth. You would think they can replace hands. She can't replace a tooth.
Yeah, she needs to get a cybernetic tooth. It welds things for her.
Oh, it feels just like a real tooth.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mandalorian lands, and this is, by the way, that station what we were talking about, right?
Fancy gear. He probably came for the Bunta stuff.
Yeah. Bunta races, the Bunta week, all that stuff.
You know what I wish they had done, which would have been really cool? She mentions Boba Fett and stuff, but it would have been cool if they'd shown on a screen, maybe, since it takes place in the main race is in Mos Espa still, I assume, in Mos Eisley. But have the big opening ceremonies, but instead of Jabba the Hutt coming out, it's Boba Fett comes out and rings the bell and says,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that would have been cool to see, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So Mando comes in, lands, and then we get that great scene where he comes leaping out after, like Luke showed him how to do this jump and stuff. It was fun to see him do that again.
We see him do it, and it kind of sunk in. It was like when I first, when I first saw it, I was like, when I first saw it when he was training with Luke, it made sense there and everything. It's like, oh, he's teaching him how to jump away from danger and leap and not do these leaps and everything. But for some reason, it didn't sink into me that you would now be able to do that on adventures and stuff. So that's cool.
Well, it helps him get into that little pod and stuff later on too, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think the pod connects from underneath. I think there's a port underneath where that he
really?
can get into his pod while inside the back of the cockpit, because I know that at some point that happens.
Right. So so he shows up and she talks him really quickly into buying R5.
Oh, I just caught something. Go back to those Jawas. You see they're wearing the red and green?
Yeah.
Now go back to the roadie.
And purple. They got purple too. I wonder if that's
red, green, and purple. Now go back to the roadie.
Oh, you think this is like...
It's a Bunta Eve? Oh, no. It's just coincidence. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it still might be something that the Jawas wear on Bunta Eve.
Maybe.
He did say you have to catch them before they go celebrate or something. So.
I thought that was... Yeah, he was... I think she said something like they're going to go drink or something.
So, so she convinces him to buy R5 pretty easily. Like you said, like the first episode, he was all about fixing IG-11. She said, don't worry about that. Buy this thing. And I don't know if it's just
seen R5 before. He knows that that's a droid she's had since before. I wonder if those little slots on the side are little arms
like R2 has?
No, like the slots on the side of the head are arms like
Chopper
has.
From Rebels. Yeah, could be. That might be fun to see. We don't know too much about it.
You notice that shot right before that? That's the stain from where his motivator blew up.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I think it's fun that they brought R5 into it. I think it's even funny that she's like, all about his whole fighting with the rebels, saying when he clearly have never fought with the rebels, he's been on Tatooine this entire time.
I don't know. I thought she was referencing some legend stuff, newer stuff.
I mean, maybe, but we know, he was shown in, I think, episode 1 when they came to Tatooine off in the background. Could have been a different one.
Was that really supposed to be him or just some other?
It could have been a different one, but
I do remember people saying, "Oh, that's R5." So.
Yeah, and he could have been just his entire existence could be on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. Of course, she's lying about everything. She even says right here, like, "Don't rely too much on him." Yeah, he's like, "What?"
It's not really a reliable.
No, she's basically a human Jawa.
I guess so.
So then they go to the Mandalore system, right?
And this is where you find out that Grogu can move between the back section and the front, and I didn't know that there was a connector in there. So that was
well, there is no back section now. There's the droid section, but
there was another thing before that.
Right.
Maybe in the last episode. Maybe in the one before.
It was the last one. He
comes down from the the thing comes up.
Also noticed, I didn't know this. Maybe he didn't say before, or maybe I just missed it. But he says that he came from Concordia.
Right. Yeah. I knew that.
Oh, okay. Did they say that before some other point or something? Okay.
Yeah.
So he was definitely part of Death Watch, maybe, or.
Well, Death Watch probably wasn't around by then, but whatever they turned into, at least part of Death Watch probably evolved into.
It was Clone Wars time whenever he got attacked. Remember, it was the Clone Wars droids that attacked as the Separatists that attacked. So
yeah,
that would have been Death Watch time. Probably whenever they turned against
the Night of Tears or Imperial bombing was not that long ago. It was because we're 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and it would have had to have happened like between Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. So,
well, no, it could have happened before Star Wars. I mean, before New Hope.
I thought, when was the last time we see Mandalore in the canon?
Rebels, right?
Yeah, and Rebels takes place like up to 5 years before, maybe. But by the end of Rebels, you're pretty close to Episode 4.
Yeah.
Not true. Rogue One close, but you're pretty close. So you're talking maybe another 5 years. So the Night of Tears happens within the past 10 years. So
10, 15 years.
12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Not long.
Well, I mean, Bo-Katan even says it wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah. So there's Concordia. And then he points to the other moon, says that.
Yeah, him saying what happens where these are.
The screen there.
That saves him in the end because whenever he gets back later, right? Mm-hmm. So they land, seeing what happened to Mandalore is crazy whenever you're a fan of Clone Wars and Rebels and you've seen what it's supposed to look like and you've been in these things.
That's been crystallized by the heat into glass.
Yeah. That's the same glass he had in the first episode.
Right. I was reading this is Legends now, of course, but it's the history of Tatooine. That Tatooine got bombed in a similar way, like 20,000 years ago, and it was turned into glass like that. And then after a long time, the glass broke down into sand.
Wow, that's pretty neat. That's a fun scene right there. Them watching R5 bravely.
Yeah,
you go. You knew the droid wasn't just going to come back. Go, yeah, it's okay. Like the minute he disappeared in darkness, I was like, yeah, never see him again. I guess he survived though. But he gets down here and then immediately gets in a fight with.
These guys are cool. Everybody has been saying they remind him of Morlocks and
So they're called Alamites. I don't think these guys have showed up before.
No, I don't think so. She said that they used to hang out outside the city.
Yeah.
What I guess they're
wild beast or something.
Yeah. What I wonder though, because I've got the green in the glass stuff, and then there's that other creature we see later that has the glowing green eyes, and they have the glowing green eyes, and it makes me wonder if they didn't used to have the green eyes, but their systems have been poisoned by whatever toxins were released with all this bombing, and that the same thing happened to that other little creature, so that's why they get the green eyes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's just my guess. I like the double nose and
double eyes, double nose. It's a very Star Wars creature. Very good Star Wars creature. So he fights these guys off kind of roughly, but he manages to survive.
Yeah. I think they just kind of took him by surprise of what happened.
Yeah. Finds out that the air's good. I like that he said he'd pressurize his helmet before he went out.
And then you hear that. And then you hear the breathing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Stormtrooper helmets can do that too, because we see them out in space in Episode 4.
Must have filters or something to breathe through.
Yeah.
There's no air connection, right?
Now, in Episode 4, there's this subtle little scene where the Millennium Falcon is entering the docking bay, and you see two little Stormtroopers down the bottom of the screen. They're out in space, and they have tubes coming out of their helmet going to a backpack.
Yeah.
And that's one of the few scenes where you ever see a Stormtrooper in that mode.
I think they sold a toy like that, didn't they?
And then we also see Boba Fett with the pressurized helmet inside Star Wars.
That's true. So he goes down into caves. We see the cool little lizard thing. Yeah, there's a little lizard thing. I don't know what that thing's called, but and it also has
alligator.
it has the green eyes, like you said.
That pressurized helmet thing could help answer some questions too about. We were wondering how hard it is to take the helmet off. And sometimes it seems to come off easy, and sometimes it seems like they can't get it off. So I'll bet if you have it pressurized, or maybe some other thing between pressurized with a secure thing, if you have that activated at the time, then it's like your enemies aren't going to get that helmet off very easy. But if it's not active, if you just sort of put it on and didn't do that part, like somebody wearing a helmet without the strap connected, then it could be, and that gives you all kinds of narrative possibilities if you want to have his helmet get knocked off.
I think we've even seen him like raise up the helmet and kind of eat like this,
Right.
Like if it's that easy, But yeah, that makes sense. So the mines are kind of cool. I love that
this scene right here, even before you get to this, when he's walking down and you got the alligator stuff, there is an effect going on here. And if I have a guess about how they did it. If I'm right, it is super cool. So they're walking through these big caves, and these caves look pretty big. It looks like it's probably not a set. They're probably using the volume. And if any of our viewers don't know what the volume is, look it up, because it's a really cool innovation they did for doing effects and making it look like you're in these bigger places than you are. And so it's this virtual environment, right? So I'm guessing as walking through these caves, that back there it's made in the Unreal Engine. It's a virtual set that's being projected behind it, or put on screen behind it. But he's got a light on his helmet, a spotlight. And you can see as he's moving his head around like this, the spotlight is illuminating way back into these caves and stuff. And he like turns his head, and there's one really good one, but it's way later in the episode that really shows what I'm talking about. But as he moves his head around, that light is illuminating stuff. And so I'll bet what they had to do, and we're not seeing the exact same. Oh, right there.
Yep.
So if that's not a set, then what they had to do was put a thing in his helmet that tracks the motion of his helmet and then moves the virtual light in the virtual scene in accord with how the actor's moving his head.
That's a neat idea.
I think that might be what they did. I'd love to find out later if that's really what they did. But
yeah.
What a great way to integrate the two, if that's what they want to do.
That's really cool.
Sometimes it's so close, you say, oh, well, that's a set piece. But there's a few scenes where it was so far away, I thought, whoa, that's...
I saw on another channel, someone talked about how bad off this... I don't want to jump ahead. How bad off this helmet looks. And wondered if it was the same weapon that Sabine created.
That would totally destroy it.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it just looks kind of bad. Like the glass is all gone, but the metal has stayed. I think it just
stuff on top of it. And not all Mandalorian armor is pure Beskar, right?
That's true. They even talk about the difference between pure Beskar and like the handle for the Darksaber is the most pure. Even the armorer said it's like the most pure she's ever seen or whatever. So, all right. So let's talk about this cool. Yeah.
This creature was great. I loved just the whole creativity of it. I have no idea what it is or why it's down there. Maybe
I tried looking up stuff on IMDb and things like that, see if they named it or anything. I just wrote it as creepy eye scavenger droid. But I couldn't find a name for it or anything like that. And I'm kind of fine with it just not having a name. It's just a weird
It's
anomalies.
something that obviously is part organic and part cybernetic. It probably started as something different, and then in a survival situation, since he was already cybernetic, it gave him the option to then find parts and build it onto his cyber. Because you're not going to be doing cybernetic surgery in a post-apocalyptic setting, but if you're already a cyborg, maybe you could just take the mechanical parts you have and then start adapting them and working on them. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm just speculating.
that is the weird thing about Star Wars is they rarely, at least unless you're like, you know, an elite person on episodes 1 through 3, you never see people doing medical stuff just like in perfect environments. You know,
Yeah.
maybe Luke getting his hand repaired in the medical bay was one outstanding part. But I mean, we even see like Boba Fett just, you know, taking a Bacta tank in the living room. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if Bacta technology has made
You know, right here, it looks like there are some organic parts in the body, which
Yeah.
is really weird given what we see later. By the way, this is all spoiler stuff. I think we made that clear in the last episode. This whole series is assuming you've seen.
Yeah, I put that as our
It's a
description.
review, not a preview.
Right.
But what you see later with the head coming off makes that especially weird, because how can that other stuff be organic down there?
Maybe that stuff is like stuff that the head part feeds on. It just stores,
Maybe
you
it's
know,
processing blood and fluid and whatever he's draining out of Mando for some reason, right?
plasma or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he needs it because he doesn't have bone marrow.
Yeah. What an awful existence.
But,
I wonder. I mean, it has to be intelligent enough to be able to create these things.
oh, I think it's totally smart. You know, I think it's like a mad scientist or something. I don't know, but it's definitely so exotic and cool and unexpected.
So he sees Grogu try to help, runs out. I like that he uses the Force to push back the
Yeah, I
Alamite
think
here.
they showed that in the preview. Did you notice those guys are using axes that are sculpted out of that glass?
Yeah, I did.
That was really cool.
Smart of him. So
he wasn't walking in the last episode.
what was that?
The Bo-Katan's little droid assistant.
Oh
He
yeah.
was just standing still in the last episode. You can see him walking.
I like that droid.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So the he shows up.
Oh,
She
I love
realizes-
when Grogu jumps into the thing and then points at the dot where Din told him earlier that's where Bo was. He points at it and goes, "Ew," and then the R5 knows what to do.
Yeah.
That was Grogu's first solo adventure.
Yeah. And he did well.
Yeah. There's the little flying alligator.
Yeah. I love that the little lesson at the beginning of the episode.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, this is the first time she's coming back to Mandalore, as far as I know. After the destruction.
Yeah, probably so.
That is hard to see.
At everything.
That is hard to see after you know what the whole dome and everything's supposed to look like, right?
Oh no! And what's really cool too is that when it shows the buildings closer up, like when they're jetpacking down, you can see that even though it's ruins, it's still in that cubist kind of style that you saw in Clone Wars. So it's very consistent, other than being in ruins.
Right. I like that the droid then watches them leave, like they watched him leave the first time.
Yeah.
So they get down here, they do the whole.
Right, that's where you see those buildings. You can see the little designs in them with that cubicle, kind of extra little ridges and things, like it was carved out of granite or something.
Her looking down on the city.
Yeah.
Some great acting.
Yeah.
I
like the light coming through the green glass.
I love that, like, her knowledge of this planet informs her of what is about to happen. She's doing the same thing with the eye, the light, by the way.
She didn't make any comments about the mysterious cyborg creature. They're just sort of, she didn't say like, "What the hell was that?" or "Who's that?" or explain who it was, or they kept it very mysterious.
In this universe, it's who knows what's been living here. It's like you said, it's only been 10 or 15 years, so
yeah, that's why I think it was something that was already cybernetic before, and just maybe has gone Mad Max with it.
So this scene right here, where she knows what's up,
seeing the glow of their eyes or whatever through the glass.
Well, I think she knows.
You see some movement there.
Yeah, she knows what a trap is because she's lived here. She's probably hunted these things as a young warrior or something,
Plus, she just trained to be super observant.
Yeah.
Good spot check.
Now, her ability in this is a little bit better than what Mando did. Of course, she wasn't caught off guard,
Sure. I mean,
like
you said, she probably has seen these things before. Oh, there's the energy shield.
Yeah. Love the energy shield. And I love what she says right there. Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets into here. She has, this is where the guy's like draining blood, I guess.
So obviously needs that fluid for some reason. And it has
comes in here.
Bodies. That's cool. She sees that.
Yeah.
It's also kind of cool too that she just, gives it back to him afterwards because it doesn't count. At first we were wondering like, well, she beat the thing that beat him, but I think that thing would have had to be using the dark saber.
Well, it wasn't in real combat either. He just fell for a trap.
I don't know what they call that. There's all these, every time you see any kind of thing with a bunch of rules to it, there's all these questions. Well, what about this? What about that? I'm not supposed to eat meat on Fridays. What if somebody puts meat in my food and I didn't know about it?
I liked seeing her just use this thing, the dark saber, without it being heavy to her or anything.
Yeah, because
people talk about like her primary focus is all in it, knows exactly how to use it and everything.
I think there's also a fate thing too of like she's the proper person to have it, so it doesn't give her as hard of a time. Maybe it's both ways. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It obviously has a kyber crystal in it and has some kind of, Jedi. There's some kind of, I don't know if it's canon or lore or anything like that, but there's some kind of communication between Jedi and kyber crystal, right? Mm-hmm. So if someone's using this as a non-Jedi, there's got to still be some kind of, I don't know, relationship there. I think
even non-Force users are living beings, and so there's something about the Force in them, and they can be connected with by things.
Yeah. So he warns her behind you just in time for this thing to come flying out. Yeah. This was her ability to just take this thing down.
Just how powerful the saber is, how it cuts through that thick steel like that.
I know.
Effortlessly.
He had no hope. Had no idea he was going to have to do it.
I don't understand why it's dying here, though, because it was ahead just a minute ago. And so
I don't think it did die. I think he went, okay, I don't have another body. I'm going to stay
lost power, and so I'll sit in here until they're gone.
Yeah. I think once they left, he came out and started repairs and whatnot.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if any more comes out about these things.
Oh, so she talks about Pog soup, which
Oh
I
yeah,
think
I don't. Is that new drop from something that we've heard of before?
I don't think that's something we've heard of before, but I did notice that online, I think the day of or the day after this came out, someone posted a recipe
That was
immediately
awesome.
saying what
I
it
guess we could
was.
Wikipedia it and see. But,
Yeah, I looked it up and all it says is what they say.
oh, okay. Yeah, it's probably new.
But the so like I looked at the recipe and it's just it seems very either Indian or Thai kind of inspired. It's got turmeric and coriander and curry powder and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
that
it's supposed
wasn't
to be
released
real
by history,
spicy and
right?
flavorful. What was that?
That wasn't like an official release, right? That was
No,
just
it was just somebody saying that's and those kind of things are what sometimes inform later on what they are.
yeah.
So I just thought it was fun to someone immediately said, "Oh, I'm going to put together a soup," and this is fun. Yeah, there he is getting the soup.
They should have had Grogu.
Oh yeah, well maybe he was.
Mhm.
So they decide to go down to the living waters.
Yes.
I
Now
love
it's.
her attitude in
I know
this.
she's smirky. You
Yeah,
know, she's like, and that's a cool little. That's almost
yeah.
like a handoff thing or something.
Why haven't they been using this the whole time?
I don't
Why
know.
they use the little
I would want to
flashlight?
get me one of those little lights.
I know. I want one now, and it seems like we could have something very similar if you use little,
Mm.
a drone technology or something. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know why they hadn't been using that the whole time. That seems nice.
Well, it might be good to turn your light off once in a while. You're sneaking around doing suspicious stuff.
Yeah, they still see your beam from your helmet.
No, to turn it off, to have it right there, we can turn it
Oh,
off. But yeah, that's cool.
so they approach living waters. Yeah, her whole attitude with this is like,
Yeah. It's like
It's
she
like
said
a
she went along with it for her dad
yeah,
because her dad cared about it, but after that she didn't care anything. And then there she's reading the plaque and she's smirking. She's almost giggling at points, like how silly it is, this story and everything. And what I like to talk about though, because everybody jumps right from this to the big scene underwater,
right.
but what I like to note is the change here between her doing this and then he stops, he starts taking off his stuff, he goes into this moment of silence, then he starts saying the words. And if I could change one thing about this episode, it would be to give a little more time to this before he falls under. Because right as it's doing this, it's playing this great music, it's building up, and you can see her witnessing this, and you can tell that she's kind of like taken aback by it or kind of moved by it or something is touching her about this as he's doing this, to see somebody really take the word seriously. And I think that's an important moment for her. And it's this real kind of moving moment. You see how she's looking, there's like wheels are turning. You could tell
Yeah,
something's getting to her about
the
this.
smirk's kind of going away.
Yeah, yeah. And so I wish they had just a few more beats of letting that kind of sit, and then he goes or something, have it collapse at that point or something, because it happens so quickly after that. It shuts off what is really a very cool scene.
Yeah, her face in that she's suddenly, despite herself, inspired.
Yeah, yeah. You can see she's kind of inspired by it, and she's got a lot now to look back on, things that are gone that she took for granted before and stuff. And
By the way,
oh, go ahead.
how heavy is he that
Oh,
he's beyond?
He's like a weight. He's just falling.
But she's jetpacking straight down, like she was not that far behind
I
him.
know. You think you'd see him
At least see the
down.
body, yeah.
He goes He goes quick. And maybe she's just not seeing him right away. She had to turn her light off here to see his light, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
But yeah, he just fell. He didn't have his jetpack, so what are you going to do? Pressurize your helmet if you can quick enough.
Yeah, I guess he can't swim without the jetpack. So here comes the big scene, right?
Yeah.
The whole.
Course, I knew exactly what this was after you get the enough to see the shape of the head and the horn and all that.
Yeah.
But,
looks to the side.
And I love when it shows her and the bubbles come out like what the? There it is.
Yeah, Mythosaur.
And so, you know, we're used to seeing these big creatures in Star Wars all the time, but I get the impression that this is like if you tried to tell somebody you saw a dragon.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
not a crate dragon.
Believes those are down there anymore, if they ever were, and
right.
Stuff like that.
It's an actual Mythosaur.
Yeah. So for her to see one, and then I love like this is one of those moments where you can see the expression through the helmet,
right?
Where she's leaning forward. It's coming up here just a minute. Yeah, right there. You can see like what? It's like
yeah. So, and that's another thing I would like to say about the actor that plays her is that
Katie Stackoff, right?
Yeah, is that you know, people have talked about how good the Mandalorian is acting wise, like with the tilts of the helmets. She's actually pretty good at it too. Like,
yeah, she is. And I saw an interview with her. She was talking about how she actually likes doing the scenes with the helmet on because it makes her have to go back to kind of a dance expression kind of movements and think about. And she said that after every scene when they film it, she goes and looks at the replay to see how she looked on it, if the things came across that she wanted to come across. I especially think back to that scene in Mandalorian where he goes to this little shady guy in the little space station that hires him to go to the prison ship, and he just goes like this a little bit. And he goes, "Don't give me that look."
Yeah, it's almost like puppeteering because you're not using your face. You are using your head, but it's
kind of funny how much we as humans can pick up just in the body language. And, you know, I've gotten more emotion out of a lot of Mando's little head turns than a lot of scenes where they overdo it. Not Star Wars, but just other shows where they just have people like crying so much.
Right.
You know, it's supposed to be emotional.
Yeah. There's this episode I liked even more than the first. You know, it just had so much. There was the fight scenes and the interesting droid eyeball scavenger thing, but obviously ending it with the big Mythosaur presence.
It was very good. What I liked about the first episode was how it included a lot of things, a lot of different things. It like took you from and so it felt almost like you'd watched a longer thing than it really was. It felt epic, but it also laid out a lot of here are some of our big threats for this season. You know, so it was serving another purpose in a way. So just as an episode, this one probably was better.
But also, it also served to, you know, like his new ship, the N1. You didn't get to see really do anything when he first got it. You got to see it like shoot away from X-wings or something.
Fast.
Yeah, it was fast or whatever. But in the first episode that we already covered, the whole dogfight scene with him and pirates and stuff, you finally get to see that. And so it was really nice to be rewarded with like, okay, you got the cool thing last time you saw him. Here's the cool thing being cool.
And when they fires that missile, it makes the same sound as when Anakin fired it inside the. I mean, they pay attention to stuff like that, just like the seismic charge in Boba Fett. It's like they're paying so much attention to those little things. It's like the job they did in Rogue One, where they recreated you felt like that connects right into Star Wars.
Right.
Even the Death Star planes, they didn't make it look fancy. They made it look like it looked in the old movie and stuff. So I love that.
Yeah. So that was episode 2. Anything else to add?
One thing, like when we're talking about Bo-Katan and the mask thing and the what are they called now? Just the watch, right? Their order, Din's order.
The covert.
Yeah, the covert. A lot of the comments I see online are like, everybody thinks that Din's going to have this arc where he becomes more enlightened and then realizes that you don't need to have the helmet on all the time. And he becomes more like a regular person. It's kind of like, and I think it's much cooler to think about like, no, what happened is these people went back to like the old ways because they were radicalized by this attack on Mandalore. And now kind of the salvation is everybody coming back to that and being inspired by it. And so, I'd prefer to see that happen rather than this group go back to being like all the other Mandalorians.
It doesn't, right, but take Bo-Katan's hope that she could combine all the different sects that are out there. You must, there must be other coverts or whatever they want to call them that have their own little things, their own little thing. Like,
well, there's the thing about the dark saber. That's another.
Yeah, maybe if she rises out of the waters on top of the Mythosaur with the dark saber, all of them will like come to her. But how long is she going to be able to lead all of them under this? You can't remove your helmet dogma.
Well, what happens is a merging of these things. Some things keep, and some things maybe shift a little. Like you mainly keep your helmet on, but you take it off around other. These things kind of like, and that's how that kind of thing tends to happen. I think that's a path we could see, but all in all, what I want it to be is that Mandalorians are distinct, and there's something hard about being a Mandalorian, and it's unique, and it's not just like, hey, I got some cool armor now.
Maybe it's like, oh, there's a new age of Mandalorian now, and some of the old rules can go away. But that doesn't mean you're going to get all the hardliner. Like the armor, there's just no way she's going to ever take that helmet off.
Yeah.
She's going to have to die before that helmet comes off. Yeah.
But definitely, great episode. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a cool season.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to have the next episode out really quickly. And then we'll talk about it then.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.